Well, hello there, my friends. Happy Thursday to you. Hope this day finds you safe, healthy, happy, and thriving and living your best life. Whatever it is you're doing, just enjoying yourself, having a good time doing it. Wherever you are, whatever it is, work, play, vacation, whatever. Hope you're just living your best, having a great day. I know I am. But I've talked about this many times before. That's a decision I make before I get out of bed in the morning. I mean, I do a whole series of affirmations and gratitudes to just for the day before my feet hit the floor. And that kind of sets my stage to have a good day no matter what's going on, and helps me, you know, just it helps me get through the day, helps me get through whatever's going on in the world. Even the all the stuff that we deal with, each and every one of us on a daily basis, we deal with the vicissitudes of life, and gives me an opportunity when I start the day that way. Gives me the ability to just kind of face the music, if you will, and feel good, feel happy. And then, of course, my daily spiritual practice, my meditation, sets the stage for. I think it helps me to produce or embrace, if you will, a resilience that just gives me the ability to once again to deal. Hi there, Shay. Nice to see you. Nice to see you joining me. Everybody else, I can see that you're out there. I can see people are watching the show. You're watching from different sources. There's half a dozen different places where there's streams. So if you've got the ability to comment, to say hi, to let me know you're out there, I'm thrilled to talk about anything you want to talk about, or to answer questions if you have them. So today, I posted the show is going to be about, and pardon me while I'm over here. What I'm doing is dipping a tea bag. I'm having a little pomegranate blueberry acai tea. The post was that we're going to talk about we need to love one another, everyone, and what are your thoughts about that? And what brought that up was someone I know on Facebook posted an excerpt. I don't think it was the whole commercial, an excerpt of a commercial that Levi's is running, and it shows two people in the commercial. That the part that I saw was two people in the commercial. One of them is someone with longer than shoulder length dark hair with a full beard and in a Levi's skirt, a dress, and the other person, I didn't quite make out what the outfit was. The other person looked definitely more feminine, if you will, and I could not tell if that was I couldn't tell anything more than that. Let's put it that way. And that was interesting. I mean, she's a branding expert, this person, and she made the comment that some companies don't seem to know what their target brand is. And I thought for a second, well, maybe you don't particularly know what the target is they're looking for. Maybe they're looking to expand their target. Maybe they're looking to appeal to the younger generations that seem to be embracing a definitely more fluid or gender fluid attitude towards the usual gender roles, which we all see around us. It's that's happening. It's going on. It's interesting. It's I'm not sure that I understand it all. I certainly want to remain open to the people who are experiencing life in that way, and to give them the opportunity to express themselves, as long as they're expressing themselves as a loving individuation of the divine. In the immortal words of Pope Francis, who am I to judge? Excuse me, it's really funny. I was kind of clear here for a while, and then I sit down to do the show, and right away the seasonal allergies are like, aha, we got you. But so she made this post, and she put up this commercial with these obviously gender fluid young people, these two gender fluid young people as the models of the Levi's clothing. And what it did was it got a lot of really, really negative replies that kind of shocked me, actually, a little bit. And what occurred to me was the incredible amount of hate, if you will, that can be engendered from ignorance. And I think the haters out there, or the people who are absolutely dealing in hate each and every day of the week, in the alternative news places on social media, all those people, I think they're just the mere fact that they're such haters. I think they are absolutely expressing their ignorance. And so I just wanted to touch on it, and I wanted to touch on this subject. There's years ago, I don't know how many years ago it was now, maybe 7, maybe half a dozen. At Mile High Church, when I was still in Colorado, obviously, and I was a practitioner at Mile High Church, we had the first Transgender Day of Remembrance there, and there was a panel of, I believe, 4 people, if I recall correctly. One of them was a trans woman who is a friend of mine who I had known for many years, who actually is the same age as me, and she came out as trans in 1965 when she was 15 years old. That was literally unheard of. And she had quite a pathway to get there. There were 2 trans men on the panel. I don't recall their statistics, if you will, or anything, or much about them, but I do remember that the other trans woman on the stage was a newscaster in Colorado, and I don't remember where I think she might have been in Southern Colorado somewhere. So I'm going to have a little of this pomegranate blueberry acai tea. And I was a funny part of the story is I was part of the steering committee, if you will, for the GLBT ministry at Mile High Church. I was kind of I always used to joke I was the token straight male on the GLBT ministry. And by the way, we didn't say LGBT, we said GLBT in that particular environment, and I don't know why. But anyway, we get to this Transgender Day of Remembrance, and there were 2 other practitioners on the board. Neither one of them was there. They couldn't make it. And the person who was kind of MC for the event asked me to pray in. And I had no forewarning of this. And so here I am. I stood up in front of 200 people I've never seen before in my life and prayed the group in. And as I looked out at the group, I was struck by the diversity of not just the diversity of the people in general, but the diversity of the expression of the gender fluidity in front of me. And I relate to 2 guys who were together. They stick out in my mind. The 2 guys who were together, who were both looked like lumberjacks. Basically, they had the beard and they were dressed in drag. And that was just a piece of it. May have been, maybe from my perspective at the time, maybe an extreme, within the crowd. And we had this big conversation, lots of Q&A. And I was definitely influenced by the fact that the trans community wasn't settled in and of itself. Now, this was a few years ago, so things have changed since then, but they weren't even settled in and of themselves with pronouns and where they were in society and what they were looking for. What they were clear about was that trans people were, even back then, were being murdered nonsensically. I mean, just for no freaking reason at all, other than they were trans. And that's what led to this Transgender Day of Remembrance. And you know what? Back then we called it something else that was a little bit more graphic than Day of Remembrance. And for the life of me, I don't remember what it was called. But it had to do a whole lot more with the physical abuse of the transgender community. Now, let's be clear, the trans community is minute. It's a very, very, very small portion of the population. And we've come to a point now in history where we're exploding onto these people just the meanest, nastiest, cruelest reactions and new laws. People like the governor of Florida creating just hateful laws to almost erase, if you will, any form of the trans community whatsoever, and any expression of the trans community whatsoever. And it's a commentary, I guess, on the culture wars, that we have little people like this governor, this little tiny failed human governor of Florida. This little man is now not only picking a fight with the House of Mouse, if you will, with Disney. That's a whole other workshop, as my friend Barry would say. But that's picking on the trans community and not even knowing what the trans community is. And that was another piece of the Trans Day of Remembrance, was defining trans. Defining is, how do you refer to a male who has transitioned to his gender identity of female? Is that a transgender male? Is a transgender female? And it was an interesting discussion back then, because nobody had answers, because it really was just coming into the consciousness. And so today we have this these comments after this lady posted the Levi's ad, and we had the comments were mind-boggling. But there was one person who was very much the on the side of, why are we judging these folks? Why are we giving them a hard time? Why are we condescending, or not condescending? Why are we condemning them for being part or included in a Levi's advertisement? What is this about? And another woman who's a realtor, that's what her Facebook profile said. She's a realtor. She made a comment about, it was I wish I could remember the terminology now. But she made it sound a whole lot more like a degradation. The trans position in general was a degradation of society and humanity. And she made note of a particular author and a book, and the fact that even Bill Maher agreed with the author's take on transgenderism, especially where it referred to children, or where children were involved. And it dawned on me, this woman read a book. This realtor read a book. And now this realtor was all of a sudden some kind of an expert on the trans community. And it flabbergasted me. It pissed me off. We need to learn over and over and over again, I guess, that those who are not like us in whatever way, who don't look like us, don't talk like us, don't worship like us, we don't dress like us, we need to love them anyway. They are no more or less an individuation of the divine than you or me or anyone else. I also was struck by the ignorance, as I mentioned early on. The whole transgender world, if you will, or the transgender it's really funny. I thought I knew what I was going to talk about today. I'm really kind of confusing myself with my own verbiage. People don't understand what transgender is. People don't understand post-op, pre-op. They don't understand the difference between transgender, drag, and transvestite. Those are three different things, but in the mind of the ignorati, they are now all transgender. Drag queen story hour, which I'm really not familiar with, other than I know that there are drag queens going in and reading stories to young kids. That's just freaking fabulous. The drag queen story hour. It's not the Iron Workers Union story hour. It's the drag queen story hour. It's not some guys coming in off the street to read to the kids. It's these drag queens that are actually coming to entertain and read to the kids. What the hell is wrong with that? And then, of course, you have you can see a gazillion different examples going back as far as you can think. Milton Berle, Red Skelton, all these old comedians who dressed in drag all the time. Flip Wilson had the incredible character Geraldine that was totally done in drag. Now, these guys weren't trans. They weren't even transvestites. Transvestites are basically people who, for all intents and purposes, it's men who dress as women, although it can be the other way around. They're not transgender. They're transvestites. A totally different thing. It's not a transsexual thing. It's trans clothing, if you will, thing. And Jay remembers Geraldine. I love it. But all of these, we have been entertained by men in drag forever. How about Tom Hanks, Bosom Buddies? Tom Hanks, one of the most popular, most famous actors on the planet, literally got his start. He came onto our radar as a star of Bosom Buddies, where he and his buddy dressed in drag all the time. There was another one that came into mind that just left me at the same time. Oh, how about Mrs. Doubtfire? How about that one? I mean, there's so many different examples of men dressed in drag as women entertaining us, going back as far as one could think. In the days of Shakespeare, there were no female actresses. There were only male actors. Male actors engendered all the parts of the play, so they played the women. It's been going on forever. And for this little teeny weeny man in Florida to be picking a fight with the transgender community just really speaks to an incredible ignorance and a desire to please those who are even more ignorant than himself by picking on people who are least capable of defending themselves, which seems to be part of the political agenda of one whole side of the aisle. Another person in this particular stream, based on this Levi's ad, made a comment about being canceled and being silenced by the left. And I want to be really poignant about this. The far left has gotten way off the frickin' rails when it comes to canceling people and silencing them on the college campuses where they won't allow people with conservative points of view to speak, where they, all of that baloney. That's the far left, but that's not the left. Nor is it the center, nor is it the just to the right. It's the far right that is canceling and silencing this entire segment of our population. And again, it's a minuscule segment of our population, but they are no more or less a part of the population. They are people that we know. Every one of us probably knows someone who enjoys dressing in the clothes of the opposite sex. We just don't know it. Lots of us know people who are transgender that we didn't even know were transgender. I know lots. I know people who were transitioning in their teens. I have known for years. I have seen people who have experimented with a gender identity. And I have an example that really has always stuck in my head. When my beloved Lisa and I were teaching the teens metaphysics on Sunday at Mile High Church in Golden, Colorado, in Lakewood, Colorado, there was a young lady in there who I really, really, really liked, and she'll obviously remain nameless. But she came from just a horrible, abusive family, like a couple of generations of abusive females, and her mom was a substance abuser. She was physically abusive to her daughter. She had a constant parade of just god awful men coming through her life, and that was this young girl's existence. This was her world. This was the world that she inhabited. And for a while, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, she went from dressing like her peers to dressing very, very girly. But she was dressing girly in an interesting way, in that here she was, probably 14 years old, 13 years old, and she was dressing in such a way that you might see a 6-year-old at her friend's birthday party. These little frilly, very little girly dresses. And she showed up on Sundays in those outfits, little by little. That kind of, I don't recall if it petered out or if it just disappeared. And the next thing you know, she was starting to dress very, what you would call butch. She started to dress more and more like a young boy. And then the next thing you know, her hair was cut really short, more in a boy's haircut. And the next thing you know, after that, she changed her name from feminine to a masculine, more masculine sounding name. And the minister who was in charge of the teen ministry at Mile High Church is he's now kind of passed that torch on to someone else. But this is Reverend Barry Ebert, who is a dear friend and a very, very astute man, and never, ever, ever on the planet was there a bigger advocate for children than Barry. And he and I talked about it a couple of different times. And the interesting thing was that this young girl was clueless as to what her identity was as a young adolescent female. Because all of the role models she had for female in the world were ugly, nasty, disgusting things that she didn't want a damn thing to do with now or ever. So she started to experiment with different ways of identifying. Now, in the end, not in the end, in the end of my contact with her, she wound up with a counselor who stood by her very closely and was and actually started to come to Mile High Church because she found the church community there to be extraordinary, and so she could spend more time with this young lady as well. And little by little, this young girl came back to experiencing herself as an adolescent female. And I hope to God that that's kind of where I lost track of her. I hope to God that continued. But she now had a role model, a female role model that she could relate to, that she could recognize as someone living life like she wanted to live life. Sorry for banging the table and shaking the world there. It's an earthquake. My point is that in this time frame now, fast forward to now, there would have been all kinds of conversation about this girl being trans. And she wasn't. She never was. She was experimenting. She did not have any kind of gender dysphoria. She had just absolute confusion with who she would identify with, who her role models were, that were role models she didn't want to follow. And the other piece of that puzzle is there are part of this this assault on the trans community has to do with this sick, twisted, I'm sorry, I'm going to say it, Marjorie Taylor Greene BS of grooming. And let's be really, really, really clear about this. The incidences of trans people, even homosexual people, grooming non-trans people or non-homosexual people to be trans or homosexual is BS. Does it happen? I'm sure it happens. I mean, anything, if it's possible, it can happen. But it's not a thing. It's not a thing. You will find more ministers and priests in traditional, if you will, rigid religious traditions, grooming children for sexual abuse. You will find more of that going on than you anywhere in the homosexual or transgender community. You will find that among people who are legitimate pedophiles. Pedophilia and homosexuality are not related to one another, nor is pedophilia and transgender life related to one another. Pedophilia is a whole different thing. Pedophilia is actually, and I don't want to be too accusatory of, but I grew up a Catholic. Let's look at the Catholic Church. Unfortunately, there was a period of time there where obviously there were pedophiles in the Catholic Church as priests who were using the priesthood as a great barrier or a great protector of their pedophilia and their ability to practice their demented little sexual behaviors. They were groomers. But there are no groomers. I shouldn't say no, but there are. The grooming thing is not part of the homosexual or transgender tradition. It just isn't. It's not a thing. So once again, we have this way far right wing BS that these people who want to get elected by the right wing haters, if you will, in their primaries, if those people are they're grooming their base, their followers, to believe in this crap. This is true demagoguery at the expense of, once again, this minuscule community that is least capable of defending themselves. I invite us all to drop the judgment. And I mean, and I'm talking about myself when I talk about the people who I am pointing fingers at, even that little itty bitty teeny weeny man who is the governor of Florida, even pointing a finger at him. That's too judgmental, even from my perspective. But I needed to make the point. We need to drop the judgment. The trans community is it's a thing that has exploded into our consciousness beyond our ability to comprehend. And that, my friends, is the truth. Stop and think about what you know around the transgender community beyond what you heard in the news or from politicians or some blog or some social media BS. Stop and think about what you truly know. It ain't much, let me tell you. I hope I don't sneeze here. It ain't much. So lose the judgment. Accept people for who they are and what they are and how they are expressing themselves. Take a look into this whole idea of gender fluidity, which I don't even claim to have even a small grasp on. But I see it happening, and I understand that it's a thing, that it's a possibility. You know, in the infinite ocean of possibilities, if we can think of it, it can exist. If we can't think of it, it can never exist. If we can think of it, it is part of the infinite ocean of possibilities. If it isn't part of the possibilities, we can't think about it. It's not a possible thing to think about if it's not part of the possibilities. It's a lot of reaction from me for this one post on this Levi's commercial. But I think it's an important piece of our collective love one another puzzle. When Jesus said, love everyone as yourself, he meant everyone. All of the great teachers of all of the great religions spoke in terms of loving one another. And loving one another did not say love everyone except, or love everyone but, or love everyone excluding. It's love everyone. And don't get me wrong, there's small e evil in the world. And the idea for me is to always despise the sin, but love the sinner, that's a challenge, man. That's not the easiest thing in the world to do. That's a challenge. Once again, the trans community is a very small community. They are some of the least capable of defending themselves because they have no real representation in the world other than being part of the LGBTQ community. But they are they're really their separate entity within that. I'll just leave it there. Love one another. That's my message. Doesn't matter how someone dresses. It doesn't matter if the beard doesn't go with the skirt. It doesn't matter if the if the muscle shirt doesn't go with whatever, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They are still children of the divine. They are individuations of the one, just like you and me. That's it for me. That's all I have on that. And if you've got, I mean, I can see there are people out there listening today. The chat is open. I'm going to do a little bit of our housekeeping here, but if you got a question, please throw it in the chat or a comment. I'll be glad to address it without any question. I want you to always remember the New Thought Media Network is a nonprofit organization. Go to ntmedia.org, click on donate. We will be immensely grateful for anything and everything you bestow upon us. If you want to reach me, send me an email at teamrockitnow@gmail.com. You can find my beloved Lisa and I at Vibrant Aging on Facebook. That's our branded Facebook page, which of course goes hand in hand with the show, Vibrant Living. Vibrant Aging is a part of Vibrant Living, or vice versa. I'm sorry for the sniffing, man. The allergies are, just kicked my table. The allergies are kind of all of a sudden appearing here at the later part of the show. So just excuse me for a second. And Vibrant Aging is the Facebook page. Of course, you must know that the sponsor for this show is HempWorks, the world's cleanest, purest, most potent CBD anywhere. Comes in broad spectrum, which has no THC whatsoever in it, THC-free, nothing to be detected in a test, and full spectrum, which has the legal limit of 0.3% or less of THC. We come in 7 different flavors, 3 different concentrations, depending on what your needs are, 500, 750, and 1,500 milligrams per bottle. Prices are incredibly competitive with everything else that's out there in the world, and it literally is a life-changing concoction for your body. Your body, literally, you have an endocannabinoid system, simply means that every cell in your body, or virtually every cell in your body, has receptors for this, waiting for it, and it helps to promote homeostasis, which is balance in your body. You can find me, for what it's worth, you can find me on Instagram at evolving_hippie. I haven't done much there, but I'll be back, I promise. The HempWorks brand, you can also find the other 9 brands under the umbrella of mydailychoice.com/Ken Ludwig. My name, take you right to my page. There are 2 new brands on there that you can delve into, if you will. This is My Daily Choice is the house of brands, and it is our goal, our founder's goal, is to be the conscious Amazon of network marketing, focusing on renewable, sustainable products. And go check it out. That's my page right there for the HempWorks brand, and also for the entirety of the My Daily Choice brandings. And I want to go back here to New Thought Media Network, ntmedia.org. Click on donate. We'll be thrilled to death to take whatever you have for us. I'm going back to the comments. I don't see any additional comments. So last chance here, going once, twice, 3 times. You got a question, you got an issue, you got a comment you want to make on what I talked about today. Please put it up in the comments now, or feel free to send me an email if you want to talk about it further. I'm thrilled to do that. And let's get you the email address up here again. There you go. teamrocketnow@gmail.com. So I'm so immensely grateful for the great gift of your time and your attention. I wish you all the love and all the blessings that the universe has to offer. I hope you will join me every single Thursday for another just adventure, if you will, of vibrant living. But until then, my friends, namaste.